So I know typically I do Bible study on the Stephanie Jam channel, but I felt it. I really wanted to talk about my own story and I wanted to talk about what the Bible talks about as well. And I felt it necessary to do it on this channel because I don't really vlog on the other channel and I do kind of on here, and here we are. So anytime I'm laughing, it's because I'm thinking of something. Like, I was thinking just now, like, first I was like, yeah, I wanted to talk about homosexuality, like, for all my life, just because, I've dealt with it myself, and I do think it runs in my bloodline as well. And that also reminds me, I gotta write other stuff down. But this is something that I've dealt with personally, and I know that other people deal with it too. So I think it's necessary to talk about. And for me, in the church, like I specifically, I just heard something, but I specifically have met people that feel like they want to make friendships with people that are gay because they want them to eventually go to church and not be gay. I don't agree with making friends with people to turn them Christian or to turn them into something that they don't believe in. I don't think that, I think that's manipulative and I don't like it. I think it's better to make friends with people because you want to make friends with them, not to turn them not gay. I don't think that's healthy, and I don't think that I just don't think it's right. And I have had mm, I mean, I don't know. I'm not even going to say I've had friends that are gay cuz that sounds like I have black friends, so I'm not going to say that. But I don't know. I just don't I don't make and I don't make friends with people to turn them something that they don't want to be. If you tell me that you're gay and that you have wondered about Christ, then yeah, we'll have a conversation. But if you're at Pride or you're like doing something that is like avidly gay, I'm not gonna like come up behind you or next to you and be like, hey, do you want to know about Christ? Just because you didn't ask me, so I'm not gonna like avidly go out of my way when you don't want to be interrupted. So, and the Bible does talk about that. Like, it says he leaves people to their own devices. So why am I going to sit here and not leave other people to their own devices if they don't want to be saved? It's not my responsibility to save people that don't want to be saved. So, yeah. And then I think another problem with me with the Christian community is like, you cannot agree with people, but you don't have to be cruel and you don't have to be mean and you don't have to be unkind. I don't feel like, I don't think God is unkind. He's direct, but he's not badger you or bully you or shame you or guilt you. Which is again why I don't understand why we don't leave people to their own devices, because it literally says it in the Bible. And then some things you just don't have to say. You don't need to say stuff. Like, I grew up in Florida, and you know, I have a different, I think in Florida there's like a mindset of kind of like, there's a gator in that pond. I know there's a gator on that pond. I can see the gator. The gator sees me. I will not walk up to that gator because I don't want to get attacked by that gator. And that gator will not walk up to me because that gator knows. I will hit that gator. And I think that's the type of mentality Florida is. Like, you stay over there, I stay over here. You do what you want to do, I do what I want to do, and I'm over here. We're in our separate places. And you can do that and not be disrespectful. And yeah, but yeah, and like even if, you know, I I kind of hate to say this, but it's honestly the truth. But like, I literally worked near Pulse, not near like after the shooting happened years later. I got a job near Pulse, like the club, and the club is still there. You can still see the club. You can see the bullet holes. You can see the memoriams. I rebuke whatever that was. You can still see. I rebuke it in the name of Jesus. I yeah. Anyway, you can still see the bullet holes and you can still see the memoriams, right? And it's hard to see and you can still feel bad for people and you can still have a heart for people even if you don't agree with what they're doing. And even, the people in the Bible that God helped were always people that have different circumstances, and the people that God uses all have different circumstances and different stories. So it's like, why can't you just be kind to people? You don't have to say stuff. I heard so many awful things around the time Pulse happened, and I honestly cried by myself a lot of the times. And that's also why you end up with all these Christians that are on the down low, as people call it, or they feel like they need beards because they can't be honest about what they're struggling with. So how can you expect people to be honest and direct about dealing with homosexuality if you are not creating a space where people can talk? So you're creating an atmosphere that's aggressive so people can't talk and be healed. And then when people do talk, you tell them that they can't, they have to like separate and be um like avoided basically. And another thing is, I personally do believe that homosexuality is a spirit as well. I do think that there's people that have done witchcraft that say they even bring they they send homosexuality and gender identity spirits to people to cause them confusion and double mindedness from God. And it's on YouTube. There's a guy that talks about it. And if you are spiritually sensitive and have discernment, you can feel when people have different afflictions in their spirit. And it's it's sometimes it varies with different people, you know. Some people have more of a like it's like a sexual energy, but it's based off of like some, it varies though. It's really hard for me to talk about this because there's of course millions of different people, but that means there's also millions of different spirits that people are dealing with. And I've seen people that, they're, well, we're talking about homosexuality here. So, like, I've seen where there's women that have overtly sexual energy, but it's like they want to share that energy with you and engage with it in with you as a woman with a woman. Or they want to, like, it's like they want to grab as many people to be hypersexual as much as they can sometimes. Or it's hard to describe, but that's like one of the basic ones that I've seen and felt. And then for me, I had DID until probably about 2024 is when they really started disappearing. And probably in August, I would say they were probably all gone. And a lot of my personalities in the beginning, some of them, I had 27. So majority of them were female. And then at one point, I had like maybe 8 or 9 that were guys. And then they became women. That's another story. But they all had ranges of sexualities. From There was some that were thought they were asexual. There was some that thought they were bi. There were some that thought they were gay. There was some that preferred to be more study. There was some that they weren't really feminine, but they were manipulative, specifically one. And then, but they were more like a Marilyn type of like false personality where it's like she would be very manipulative but be very like I don't know how to describe it, but it's like one of those people that are like the bar people where they're just like really seductive, I guess. And she would like get men to be very docile, I suppose you could say. And there was a time where I think for about 2 years that one of some of my personalities were dating women online. And I watched a lot of them interact as me now, watching them, because I wasn't in the DID circle, but I was like around it, observing it from an outside perspective. And I know how hypersexual it was, and I know how, well, that's another thing too. Well, it's it was hypersexual, and then it was also highly emotional. I at that time was more, well, I was more of an anxious attachment, and then there were some that were more avoidant. And specifically, the one that was more avoidant was one that was more homosexual. And those relationships were very toxic. And I don't even know what my notes mean. But anyway, so for me, like now, I obviously am married to a man, and I believe in, I don't really know like what to say about it. Like I dated women when I had DID. They were awful. Like my relationships were awful. They were hypersexual. I didn't really have a commitment to them. They didn't really have a commitment to me. I was just dating online because I was too afraid to date in person, and they weren't good. They weren't healthy. And I know now and notice now too that a lot now that these spirits like to, oh yeah, the homosexual spirits, like specifically in women, that I notice is either I'll attract women that are very. So, what I notice is specifically now that women and the homosexual spirits that sometimes be with women, in my case at least, is the ones that they're either secretly gay, they become my friend, and then they randomly just hit on me. And then, oh Lord. Oh, and then the second one, oh, excuse me, there was somebody pottying, and apparently, I don't know if you heard it or not, but I hope you didn't. And then the, um, the second one, I said the second one. Anyway, this is two. So, and then the second one is like, it's like a hyper, it's like a manipulative woman that tries to get me to be in a position that a man would be in. It's like they'll want you to pay for stuff. They'll want you to like be their protector, their provider, their like everything. That's where a dude's supposed to be. But they try to put me in that position or other women in that position. But specifically the ones that come after me, they do that to me. And then the third one is like they'll come around, they'll try to be your friend, and then you'll notice that they'll start, if you're in a relationship, they'll start like being really, they'll start trashing your guy. They'll start telling you how, relationships are awful, and they just want to be all under you. They want to be the only one in your corner. They want to basically be codependent, but also discourage you from being in relationships with other people, but also not being in a relationship with them. And if you try to get in a relationship, they'll tell you how dumb and stupid and disgusting it is to ultimately be around you, which is toxic. All of those are toxic. And then I feel like there's a fourth one, but I can't think of it right now. But yeah, those are the ones I noticed specifically. And a lot of those relationships do stem from usually familiar from relationships. Because I know, like, for me, my mom put me in a position that my father should have been in. Like, I'm over here buying food for the family. Like, if I'm the dad, like, I'm not the dad. That's your responsibility. But she made me like the dad because my dad didn't do nothing. He didn't provide, and she basically tried to make me the man of the household while also talking trash about me for basically doing that. So it didn't make sense. And then she also was codependent, and when I tried to get into any type of friendship, she would trash me for it. And then when I got into friendships, they also did the same thing. And sometimes those people were gay too, and sometimes they weren't. But that is why, you know, you have to look at your family background sometimes and look at why certain people are attracted to you and why these relationships keep popping up so you can deal with them and not keep perpetuating the same toxic environments and the same toxic relationships, because they will come from men and women, and they will come from straight and gay relationships, and I had it from everywhere, and my personalities had that from everywhere and everyone, and it was very toxic and very hostile and very aggressive, and I am happy not to deal with that. And when I see signs of those things, I avidly fly down the river and I say goodbye. So, if you guys are in those things or around those things, I pray that God opens your eyes and helps you to see the toxic relationships and the environments that you don't need to be in so that you can be in a better place with Christ, yourself, and the people around you, and get into your purpose and get into the plans that God wants for you, because His plans are greater than my plans, your plans, everyone's plans, and I'd rather be a part of those plans. So God bless you. God keep you. God be with you. And have a great day.